Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. Tonight I've got some terrifying Dogman encounters to share with you. Before we get into those encounters, just a couple of links I'd like to share as well. First, I'm a commercial-free channel, so I use my PayPal and Patreon to help continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description. Also, my merch link is as well in the description. Finally, my creepypasta link. That's a channel that's designated just to creepypastas, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. If that's anything that you're into, follow that link, check out that channel, and you might just like what you hear. I think I've taken enough of your time up, so let's get on with these encounters, shall we, guys? Our first encounter of the evening. Something like a tall coyote standing on its hind legs. 6 or 7 years ago, I was at our family's cottage with my family. My dad, my little sister, and I went out for ice cream or something and came back well after dark. I was in the back right seat, my little sister was on the opposite side. We pulled in and I got out my door and was startled to see a beige figure standing upright behind my shoulder. I stared at it for a second and then quickly backed up and ran to the front of the car, where my dad and sister were waiting for me to go inside. I asked them if they were just standing behind me trying to scare me, and they both kind of rolled their eyes and said no. It was dark and I could only see the silhouette, but for some reason it struck me as like a dog-like creature. This was in an area with lots of Native American lore and history. I was reading a book about cryptids a couple days later and saw a picture of a skinwalker. It looked very similar to what I saw, except this figure was my height, not the size of a full-grown man. Our second encounter of the evening, Northumberland County, Pennsylvania Dogman. In the early spring of 2009, I was out at a bush party with a bunch of friends. The party was dying down, the fire is still cooking, and I wanted to wait for the fire to go out. I didn't want to burn down the woods near my cousin's coal mine about 10 miles northwest of Centralia, Pennsylvania, so I was sitting there by the fire watching it burn down. It starts glowing, the embers are cooking out. I start hearing this teeth gnashing sound like a rabid dog. I always keep a rifle slung, a shotgun, in my truck because we have black bears and my cousin always claimed there are mountain lions up here. So I fire up the Dodge. I don't even make it about 50 feet down the path and I see what appears to be a 6'5" wolf staring right at me, over the thicket there, right through the brush. Just looking at me, so I know there's no gray wolves or anything in Pennsylvania. So I swung open the door of the Dodge and fired the shotgun at it, trying to scare it off. It ducked down. I got in the truck and hammered down all the way home. Now, to put this in perspective, when I say long distance very fast, if you look at Google Maps from Centralia, Pennsylvania, to just outside of Shamokin, Pennsylvania, I would say it's roughly about 20 miles in a straight line. About 3 hours after I got home, I'm going to go out and get the shotgun. I'm going to clean it because I fired it and it was howling. Buddy, it was up in the woods behind my house. The next day I packed my stuff and moved down to Lebanon. You can take the story with a grain of salt, you can do with what you want, but we've got a lot of abandoned coal mines up that way and a lot of creepy stuff in Centralia. I mean, that hunter was supposedly killed in Northumberland County, which this is the same county as the alien abduction. Remember that one? The best way I can describe this creature, I don't know, like some people suggest Bigfoot has to do with aliens and that stuff. I'm not qualified to make the assumption, but what I will say is, have you ever seen the movie Dog Soldiers? That's exactly what it looked like. That's exactly what it looked like, except wasn't wearing torn up gloves. I'll tell you what, it was creepy. I'm getting the chills every time I hear werewolf sound. The scary part about it is that it's like a normal dog howling at the moon. It almost, if you play it with your computer, try to make a werewolf sound a little bit more electric, like distortion, and it'll sound perfect. I'm going to end this video with a little tidbit of information, kind of a little story instead of an encounter. The white things. There aren't many creatures throughout the Appalachian Mountains that can boast such a widespread sightings as the white things. These cryptids take on many forms, sometimes bipedal, Bigfoot-like creatures. More often they are seen in the shape of a hellhound. Reports of them always hint to a spectral, ghostly quality to them, as if the white things are more spirit than animal. Some claim that they attack in a vicious strike only to disappear without leaving a single wound or a drop of blood. Native American myths claim that white things hint to a tragic, intimate death. In this way, they have become something like the American banshee. There is an obvious connection with the European black dogs, which are also omens of death and misfortune. The white things have many myths around them, and sightings often pop up in some of the oddest places. For example, some people allegedly reported seeing a white creature in Point Pleasant around the same time as Mothman sightings. Another account is the time in the early 90s detailed an encounter with a white-haired creature that seemed to float next to a speeding car. A possible explanation for the origin of the creature comes from a South Carolina folktale. The story goes that there was a traveling salesman and his white dog who unwittingly stumbled across a murder scene. The local townspeople falsely accused the stranger and lynched him from the tree. His loyal dog tried to fend them off, but the men shot and wounded the creature. Later, the people found that and they'd hung the wrong man. The dog wouldn't let anyone near his master's body. Then both body and hound disappeared one day. The ghostly dog then began to attack people in the lynch mob one by one, either seriously wounding them or killing members of their family. This cryptid falls into a fascinating place. I've always thought the albino creature have almost a mythical air about them, and in my mind it wouldn't be a stretch to think that seeing one in the wild could lead to these strange stories. Alright guys, I did a little something different. 2 encounters and a little bit of folklore for you guys. I hope you guys like that. I really thought it was fascinating. I like the little mix-up I did. Maybe you guys didn't, but I did. If you didn't like it, let me know. Kind of gave you a little perspective on some new cryptids that a lot of people might not have heard of. But anyway, the first story, the person mentioned Skinwalker. Now, I don't know. I think possibly a juvenile Dogman. I don't know. I don't think it was a Skinwalker, to be honest with you, because just things that I've read and doesn't point to a Skinwalker in my mind. The second story, that was crazy. The guy was all over the place, going from alien, Bigfoot, Dogman. I loved it, though. I mean, it just fucked the guy's head up. You can clearly, that was his writing. That wasn't my reading. So, I hope you guys like these stories tonight. I got some more for you tomorrow. I'm going in for surgery this week, and I'm going to get a story out to you every day until I hit that day of surgery. and then take a couple days, and then come back with some more stories. So, have a good night, guys. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for all the support.